When I was 15, I spent the night at my friend's house for a sleepover, blissfully unaware of the horror unfolding at home. My mom had fallen asleep on the couch, the soft glow of the television casting flickering shadows around the room, while my dad was tucked away upstairs, lost in his own dreams. Around midnight, my mom jolted awake, a chill running down her spine. To her shock, a random man was staring at her, his gaze cold and unyielding. "The guy upstairs is sound asleep," he said, his voice low and chilling. Panic surged through her. How had he gotten in? She realized he must have slipped in through the back door, the one they often left unlocked. The thought made her heart race. Gathering her courage, she firmly told him to leave. Instead of responding, he calmly walked into the kitchen, filled a glass with water from the tap, and drank it as if it were the most normal thing in the world. She could hear the sound of the kitchen tap running as he filled the glass, the ordinary noise contrasting sharply with the terror of the situation. After he finished, he turned back to her, and then he simply walked out, sliding back through the door he had come in. Once he was gone, she sat there trembling, trying to comprehend what had just happened. When I got home the next day, she recounted the craziest, most terrifying experience she'd ever faced. Even though we lived in a relatively safe area, that night proved that danger can lurk where you least expect it, leaving us all with a lingering sense of vulnerability. My house sits farther back on the lot than most, giving it a strange layout. The sidewalk runs alongside the living room, ending at the front porch, which leads into a space filled with light but little privacy. With my family on vacation, I enjoyed having the house to myself. I settled onto the couch around 10, drifting off to the comforting hum of the TV. Suddenly, I jolted awake around 2 a.m., chills running down my spine. Above me, I heard a loud banging. Someone was pounding on the window. Heart racing, I froze, peering up into the darkness. The clock read 2:30 a.m. The banging intensified, then abruptly stopped. My breath caught in my throat as it started again, from 2 different directions. One person pounded on the window, while another hammered on the front door. I felt paralyzed, too terrified to scream or move. After what felt like forever, 40 minutes, maybe more, the noise finally ceased. I hesitated, then crept to the door and peeked outside. Nothing but darkness greeted me. My heart raced as I locked the door, returning to the couch. The weight of fear clung to me until I dialed a friend, recounting the terrifying experience. They rushed over, and together we checked the house, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. That night left me a nervous wreck, a reminder that danger can lurk just outside your window. It was a long night at work, and I had just finished a shift at the diner. The clock struck midnight as I stepped outside, the cool air wrapping around me like a shroud. I had missed the last subway home and decided to walk the few blocks to my apartment. The streets were eerily quiet, a stark contrast to the hustle and bustle I was used to. As I made my way down a deserted street in Brooklyn, the city's usual vibrancy felt hauntingly distant, replaced by an unsettling silence. Suddenly, I felt a weight pressing down on my shoulders, as if something invisible was trying to pull me back into the shadows. Out of nowhere, a yellow taxi screeched to a halt beside me. The driver, a middle-aged man with a worried look, leaned out the window. "Get in. Follow me to the end of the street, and whatever you do, don't look back," he urged, his voice low and urgent. I hesitated for a moment, but instinct kicked in. I jumped into the back seat, heart racing. As we drove forward, I could feel an eerie presence lingering behind me, a sensation that something was watching. When we reached the end of the street, the driver glanced in the rearview mirror, his face pale. "There's something dark following you," he whispered. At first, I brushed it off as paranoia, but then I caught a glimpse of a swirling mist just beyond the taxi, creeping closer. It twisted and formed a shape that sent chills down my spine. When I finally turned to look, the mist shifted, revealing a face that smiled hollow, yet disturbingly familiar. I quickly turned back to the driver, who nodded as if he understood my fear. "You're not the first to feel its presence," he said. I stepped out of the taxi, grateful for the driver's intervention, but the image of that haunting smile would linger in my mind, a chilling reminder of the darkness that sometimes follows us when we least expect it.